I like to keep it life as normal as possible for my son Barron, and I'm a full-time mom, and I love it.
A shocking and heartbreaking revelation swept through Barron Trump's life, turning everything upside down. As the young son of Donald and Melania Trump, Barron has always been a topic in the news, shielded by his mother's careful attention. He was recently pulled into a meeting not for anything suspicious, but to learn about a rival through what's known as opposition research. What is this shocking news, and how has it deeply affected Barron? Let us reveal the intense, heart-wrenching story of Barron Trump right now. The quiet life of New York's youngest Trump. My son is an amazing young man. Recently, he had a meeting with a lawyer from Russia, not someone working for the government, but a private attorney. The purpose of this meeting was something called opposition research, which basically means digging into information about an opponent. But just when things seemed calm for him, something unexpected happened. My youngest son Barron received news that no one saw coming, and it has been hard on all of us. Late one night, a call shattered the silence. The Russian attorney is not who he seems, his mother whispered urgently, and Barron is right in the middle of it. Then the line went dead. Even though we've worked hard to keep him out of the public eye, the fame of our family has finally caught up to him. For most of his life, he has been protected by his mom, Melania. However, he just let go of a major opportunity, one that could have been his big debut in the public world. To understand why, let's take a step back and look at his life from the beginning. Born on March 20th, 2006 in New York City, he entered the world as the only child of a prominent couple, his father a renowned businessman and TV star. His birth, eagerly chronicled by the media, marked the beginning of a life spent under the watchful eye of the public. His childhood unfolded within the opulent walls of Trump Tower, where he occupied an entire floor adorned with gold and lavish furnishings, a testament to his father's taste for grandeur. Despite the surrounding luxury, his mother, hailing from Slovenia, endeavored to maintain a semblance of normalcy in his upbringing. She was a devoted and protective presence, deeply committed to her son's well-being and development amidst the swirl of wealth and public scrutiny. As he grew, his mother's influence remained steadfast, particularly during significant transitions. In 2016, when his father assumed the presidency, she chose to remain in New York for the remainder of the school year to minimize disruptions to his education, underscoring her dedication to his stability and continuity in schooling. Through her actions, she aimed to ground his extraordinary life in ordinary experiences, balancing the scales of a young life lived in the spotlight with the nurturing environment of home. His relationship with me has always been a topic of public curiosity. While people know me for my bold public personality, my interactions with him are different, quieter, and more personal. When we're seen together, it's usually during formal events, so people don't get to see much of our father-son bond. But make no mistake, he holds a special place in my heart as my youngest child and only son with her. He is the youngest of my 5 children. His older half-siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, have taken more active roles in public life, especially during my time in office. They've been involved in family businesses and political efforts, regularly making headlines. But he has taken a different path, staying out of the spotlight thanks to her strong focus on his education and personal growth. His public appearances have always been rare and carefully planned, which has only made people more curious about him. Unlike his siblings, who are often in the news, his appearances are brief and limited. This has fueled the public's fascination with him. Many wonder what his future holds and whether he'll step into the public eye someday. He starts school with the weight of his family's legacy on his shoulders. The unseen trials of growing up in the spotlight. He began his educational journey at Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School in New York, a school renowned for its rigorous academic programs. As one of the oldest private schools in the nation, established in 1764, it boasts a history steeped in educational excellence. The school's commitment to high academic standards resonated with his aspirations, aligning well with his family's values on the importance of a serious educational pursuit. Living in the public eye hasn't been easy for him. While his older siblings have embraced it, he has been more reserved. And with her constant efforts to protect him from unnecessary attention, he has been able to maintain a degree of privacy not many kids in his situation have. However, as he grows older, the pressure to step into the public eye keeps increasing. So, while he has stayed out of the spotlight for now, the question remains: will he one day embrace the public stage like his siblings? Or will he continue to follow his own quieter path? Only time will tell. For now, what matters most is that he is supported by his family every step of the way. Educating the children of New York's wealthiest families is taken very seriously, and his parents were no exception. His days at Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School were pretty typical. She made sure his life at school felt as normal as possible, even though their family was often in the spotlight. He went to class, did his homework, and joined in on school activities just like the other kids. Upon becoming president, the decision to relocate to Washington, D.C. immediately following the inauguration presented itself as the straightforward path. However, a different choice was made. It was decided that the family would remain in New York for several additional months, allowing him to complete his school year. This decision was met with criticism, primarily due to the increased security expenses required to maintain their presence in the city. Despite the backlash, the priority was clear. His stability and maintaining a sense of normalcy in his life outweighed the traditional expectations of an immediate move to the capital. By June 2017, she and he finally moved to the White House, and he enrolled at St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland. The school is known for its high academic standards and focus on kindness and personal growth. Everyone involved made sure the transition from New York to Washington was smooth. The school handled his enrollment privately to keep things low-key. She stayed closely involved in his education, often meeting with his teachers and checking on his progress. Even as First Lady, she believed it was important to stay active in his schooling and made sure she was present. In return, the school respected the family's need for privacy and avoided sharing details about his daily life. Every now and then, Barron was seen at public events. One of his early appearances was during his father's inauguration in January 2017. Standing with his family, he showed a calm and mature side for someone so young. This was a rare glimpse of him during a big moment in U.S. politics. But that wasn't the only public event where he made an appearance. He also attended the White House Easter egg roll on the South Lawn, a fun event that gives the public a more casual view of the first family. Even though it was a playful event, he kept things low-key, reflecting how carefully his parents managed his time in the spotlight. But the media attention didn't stop there. He also joined his parents on a few international trips. These state visits not only had diplomatic importance, but gave people rare insights into his life outside of the U.S. The Trumps worked hard to protect him from constant public attention. Melania, in particular, was determined to keep him away from too much media coverage, a challenge she faced from the moment her son was born. Growing up away from the spotlight, he faces choices about his future. Melania's choice. Unlike his older siblings, who were more involved in the public eye, his appearances were kept to a minimum. Melania's protective approach meant he grew up as privately as possible, even with all the attention their family received. She knew that being in the spotlight was not easy, and she wanted to shield him from it for as long as she could. This balance between public life and privacy shaped his childhood in a unique way. Though people occasionally got a glimpse of him at big events, the family always made sure his exposure was limited, allowing him to grow up away from the constant gaze of the media. Melania Trump, the wife of a well-known businessman, understood the challenges of being in the public eye. She made a clear decision to put her son's health and a normal childhood first, even if it meant missing out on some of the advantages that come with fame. This choice was clear in how she handled his education and public appearances, always making sure to protect his privacy. When Donald Trump decided to run for president, the family was suddenly pushed into a much more public space. For Melania, this was a tricky situation. While her husband and his older children were already familiar with the spotlight, he was still young. Melania wanted to make sure the campaign and Donald's time as president didn't affect him in a bad way. She showed this determination by staying in New York with him after Donald became president, instead of moving to the White House right away. This decision was not typical. Normally, the president's family moves into the White House as soon as the new president takes office. But Melania chose to stay behind so he could finish the school year without disruption. Some people criticized her for this choice, saying it led to higher costs for security in New York. But Melania stood firm, explaining that giving him a sense of stability during such a big change was more important to her. But that wasn't the end of the challenges Melania faced. Throughout Donald Trump's presidency, she stayed focused on her role as a mother. She skipped many public events and official duties so she could spend more time with him. Unlike other first ladies who often take on public roles, Melania made it clear that her priority was raising her son. She also worked closely with Donald to make sure he appeared like a regular kid, even though he was living a very unusual life. The way the Trumps handled his privacy is very different from other famous political families. Take the Kennedy family, for example. John F. Kennedy's children were often seen in public and became part of American culture. Similarly, the Bush family embraced public life, with many of their children becoming involved in politics. But the Trumps took a different approach. This might have been influenced by their background in business and entertainment, where managing public image is very important. They were careful about when and how he was seen, keeping much of his life private. One example of this is his limited presence on social media. While his older siblings are active on platforms like Twitter and Instagram, Melania has kept him away from these platforms. This seems to be a deliberate choice to protect him from the pressures and negativity of online life. In today's world, social media can be both a way to connect and a source of criticism, so keeping him off these platforms shows Melania's effort to shield him from unnecessary exposure. Decisions about his public role start to press in as he grows older. Prowse, a glimpse behind Barron's shielded life. The decision to keep him out of the public eye brought mixed reactions. Supporters praised Melania, saying that focusing on his well-being showed her commitment as a mother. On the other hand, critics argued that keeping him so hidden only made people more curious, leading to even more attention and speculation about him. In the end, Melania's choices reflect her deep desire to protect her son and give him as normal a life as possible. While some may disagree with her methods, it's clear that she did what she thought was best for him, even when it came with challenges and public criticism. The media's attention on him has sometimes crossed into uncomfortable territory. News outlets often make guesses about his personality and behavior, even though they've only seen him a few times in public. One example was when a TV host suggested that he might be going through emotional struggles after a public appearance. Melania Trump quickly responded, criticizing these remarks and demanding that the media respect her son's privacy. This situation highlights how hard it can be to raise a child in the public eye, where even ordinary actions can be misinterpreted or exaggerated by reporters. Despite these challenges, the Trump family has made a strong effort to keep his personal life private. Melania often talks about how important it is to provide a steady, supportive home. She mentions how her own upbringing in Europe has shaped her parenting style, focusing on values like respect, hard work, and responsibility. These values are reflected in his life, which revolves around school, good manners, and a structured daily routine. As Barron grows older, the way his parents manage his privacy may change. His recent choice to turn down a delegate spot at the Republican National Convention gives a clue about his preference to stay out of the spotlight, at least for now. Or perhaps he's planning to take small steps toward public life at his own pace. This decision raises important questions about the involvement of politicians' children in public life, especially when they're still young. The Trump's strategy, prioritizing his well-being by shielding him from the media, differs from how other political families handle similar situations, showing the unique way they approach parenting. In May 2024, something unexpected happened. He was chosen as a delegate for Florida at the Republican National Convention. But soon after the announcement, Melania shared that he wouldn't be taking the role due to previous commitments. This sudden change sparked a lot of speculation, with people trying to guess the reason behind his decision. But that wasn't the only thing that had people talking. At 18 years old, he just graduated from high school and is now figuring out his next steps, whether that's continuing with college, starting a career, or possibly exploring public service. If he had accepted the delegate role, it would have brought him into the political spotlight, marking a big shift from the private life he's led so far. Turning down the role says a lot about where his priorities might lie. It could mean he's not ready to take on such a public role, or it could suggest he has other goals he's focusing on. Melania's mention of prior commitments leaves room for guessing. Some people believe he might be focusing on his education or personal projects, while others think he simply prefers to stay out of the public eye a little longer. As debates swirl about his future, he makes a choice that could change everything: stepping away. His choice to skip a delegate role has stirred up a lot of discussion, with people sharing different opinions. Some think he's focusing on school, possibly getting ready for college, or other future plans that need his full attention. It could also be a way to avoid the intense public attention that comes with such a visible role. Or maybe it's part of a bigger strategy by the Trump family, since Donald Trump might run for president again, and his older siblings are already involved in politics. By keeping him out of the spotlight, the family might be trying to protect him. They could be giving him space to grow up without the stress of constant public attention. This approach matches how the Trumps have tried to manage his privacy over the years, keeping his life out of the media as much as possible. The public has mixed reactions to his decision. Some people praise it, saying it's a smart move that allows him to grow up at his own pace without being dragged into politics too early. They argue that at 18 he should have the freedom to choose his own future instead of following what people expect from him. But others see things differently. They wonder if his decision to step back shows that he's unsure about his future or doesn't want to be involved in his father's political legacy. Some believe he might even be trying to keep his distance from the family's political spotlight. This view seems likely since he hasn't been involved in politics like his older siblings, who are actively supporting their father's efforts. It could also be that he just wants a more normal teenage life, away from the pressures of being in the public eye. After all, growing up in the Trump family means facing constant attention, and stepping away could help him figure out who he really is. His mom, Melania Trump, might have had a lot to do with this decision. She has always been protective of his privacy and well-being, so it's possible she encouraged him to focus on school and personal growth instead of jumping into public roles. Some experts think this might be part of a bigger strategy by the Trump family. They suggest that the family could be waiting for the right time to introduce him to public life, slowly easing him in to avoid the harsh media spotlight all at once. Others see it as a growing trend. More children of public figures are choosing to stay out of politics, especially with how relentless social media attention has become. For him, saying no to the delegate role might be his way of keeping his options open. It gives him the freedom to shape his own future instead of following in his family's footsteps right away. This raises interesting questions about what the future holds for the Trumps. With his older siblings already active in politics, his decision could change how people see the family and possibly soften their image as a political dynasty. As he continues to grow up under public scrutiny, many will be watching closely. Will he eventually step into a public role, or will he take a completely different path? His choices will likely keep sparking conversations about both his personal journey and what's next for the Trump family in the political world. What does the future hold for the youngest Trump? Will he break or bolster the family legacy? Comment, like, and subscribe to share your thoughts and stay updated.